I'll be back right now. Give me 1 second. Let me do CNN. Give me a second, chat. I'm gonna go. I have to go do something real fast.
More now with CNN global affairs analyst and Iran expert Kareem Sajapur. Also with us, the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, retired U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. To both of you, thanks very much for joining us. And Kareem, let me start with you on this major news from the Iranians announcing that the Strait of Hormuz is, in their words, completely open. It's been a source of leverage for Iran for some time now. What do you think? Does this suggest a peace deal, a real peace deal, could be imminent?
Wolf, President Trump obviously wants to try to end this 47-year conflict with Iran in several weeks. But in my view, that's not going to happen. You still have the same regime which wants the United States as an adversary. A more narrow agreement on just the nuclear issue is possible, but there's no signs that Iran is prepared to change its conduct. And on the Strait of Hormuz, what they found is that that's an incredible tool of leverage for them. They agreed to open it now in exchange for Israel ceasing its military operations in Lebanon. But in the future, if Israel resumes its military operations in Lebanon, they may well try to stop traffic in the strait again.
Well, what's going to happen if Hezbollah in Lebanon starts firing rockets and missiles towards northern Israel, which they've been doing?
There are so many saboteurs in this equation, not only Lebanese Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, Shiite militias in Iraq, and individuals within the Iranian Revolutionary Guards who actually want to prolong the war for their own internal expediency.
All right, stand by. I want to bring in General Clark. General Clark, in announcing the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranian foreign minister said vessels must still transit through what they called a coordinated route laid out by Iranian authorities. Is it unusual at all that Iran would be determining this?
Well, it's absolutely unusual, it's unprecedented, and it's illegal. And so this is an international waterway. They have no right to do this, but there still may be mines out there, and those mines have to be cleared. Someone has to certify that the mines are cleared. But Wolf, in addition to that, as Kareem was saying, this situation will never go back to what it was before, because what's happened is Iran has exercised a weapon, and that weapon is still there. It's still like an axe hanging over international commerce and diplomacy in the region. And they've seen how powerful it is. And I think we also have to look at the role of China in this. When Pakistan's coming in and helping to broker this and convincing China is behind Pakistan. The Saudis are working with Pakistan. It's a temporary fix. Yes, it should be open. It should be open for China because they're the biggest beneficiary of it, and the Iranians know it, and they can't keep it closed. But there's been a real demonstration of strategic power here by the Iranian regime. So I just second what Kareem has to say. Lots of saboteurs out there, lots of potential pitfalls in the future.
Certainly are. Kareem, the U.S. Navy currently has
Hi, everybody. I'm live on Rumble too at Ghost GDL. Let me actually just put it on top of the screen. A smaller font. Just give me a second, chat. Live. Okay, I'm back. Let me just finish watching the video. I was just mentioning I'm live on Rumble too. So if anybody likes Rumble, I'm gonna be live on Rumble right now.
The blockade that went into effect a few days ago on Iran in the Strait that President Trump says will remain in full force, but only as it pertains to Iran, his words, only as it pertains to Iran. How does this impact the country?
So Iran is a country under dire economic straits. Even before this war, it was probably the most sanctioned country in the world. Now it's endured probably tens, if not over $100 billion in damages as a result of this war. And that's one of the reasons why there are folks within the government who don't mind prolonging the war, because once there is a longer-term ceasefire, they will face an incredibly aggrieved population.
No doubt about that. General Clark, we're about a day into that 10-day proposed truce between Israel and Lebanon. Hours after it started, though, the Lebanese army accused Israel of violating the ceasefire. The conflict in Lebanon has been a key sticking point in all the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. Is Israel playing into Iran's hands here, if in fact it's violating the ceasefire?
No, of course it is. And but Iran has never had Hezbollah come back and acknowledge the ceasefire. So Hezbollah is a third party left out. At any time, Hezbollah could launch a couple of rockets, and you can't take away Israel's right to defend itself. Israel has that right, and I know that there are many in Israel today who are perplexed by this. Are we saying we're going to get an agreement with Lebanon, and what about Hezbollah?
Yeah, I see that Hezbollah never even agreed to the ceasefire, so I don't know. Hezbollah's the terrorist group, but they don't even acknowledge that.
We were going to get rid of Hezbollah. They're still there. What restrictions will emerge on Iran's support of Hezbollah as we try to wrap this up with a complex, complete diplomatic agreement? And if there are no such restrictions, we're still in the danger zone, Wolf.
No doubt about that. The danger zone continues. General Clark, thank you very much. Kareem Sajipur, thank you to you as well.
Well, oil prices are trading at their lowest level in 5 weeks following the earlier announcement by the Iranian foreign minister. Let's discuss with Richard Quest, CNN business editor-at-large and anchor of Quest Means Business. So, Richard, we're seeing this significant drop in prices. But as they say in the real world, what's changed?
Oh, I think quite a lot has changed. The sentiment has changed. If you look at the developments over the course of the day, there is a view that there is more of a willingness to move forward towards peace. Now, I get the point that you're making. What's changed factually, of course? Nothing. And that's why, although I say the willingness and the trend and the mood has changed, this fall that we're looking at the screen is entirely justifiable and predictable, and it is equally reversible if the trend does not continue, if the mood movement doesn't.
Yeah, crude is still high.
Change if, for example, the blockade
Damn, gas
remains
is
and no oil
almost
flows out.
crude and
That's the
oil
reality here. It's
is-
going to be a case of wait and see if the ships actually
It's
move.
high.
Talk all you like. We want
It
to
is
see the
going
ships.
down,
We
but
want to see the ships, and you have Maersk, one of the largest shipping companies, saying that they've noticed Iran's announcement on the Strait of Hormuz, and then they go on to say the safety of our crew, vessels, and customers' cargo remains our top priority. That doesn't signal that they are ready to set sail, all things being back to normal.
No, and they won't be. And however many ships they've got caught in the upper Gulf, they will remain there. But let's just say the Iranians start to give exactly those guarantees. No, you can go forward, no toll. Let's just say I'm speculating. You can go forward. But you've still got the Americans in the Arabian Gulf outside. You've still got them waiting with their blockade to move things forward. So and the price that you're looking at now is predicated on actual real oil ships moving. If they don't, that price will go back up again. As for the longer term, how much of the economic crisis is baked in? Is the cake actually rising now? Inflation? How much damage has been done? We don't really know. It'll be a few more weeks before we can quantify that. Certainly an element of damage. But the better news is that things are looking better. Now they've got to actually prove it.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that the president is wanting this war to come to an end rather quickly as well. He sees all of these economic numbers. CNN's, thank you so much. Really appreciate Richard Quest. Thank you for joining us.
What are we hearing from the president on all of this? He's on quite a spree on Truth Social this morning on these big developments, Betsy.
Yes, Pamela, President Trump and his team are watching this very closely, receiving regular updates from here in Las Vegas, where the president is making an economic push. But news that the Strait of Hormuz is reopening, very welcome, and officials are feeling optimistic as these talks are progressing in real time. President Trump.
yeah, so the Strait of Hormuz is opened by Iran.
Reacting in that flurry of social media posts. Now we are learning, according to reporting from our colleagues Elena Trine and Kevin Liptak, that the Trump administration is also considering unfreezing $20 billion in Iranian assets as part of these negotiations. I want to read to you from a post the president sent just a few moments ago. He says, quote, "The USA will get all nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form." Of course, this idea of Iran potentially benefiting financially from this deal, even if no money is exchanged, could lead to some criticism of President Trump, who has been critical of similar deals
Damn,
under the
we're
Obama
gonna
administration.
release 20 billion to Iran.
Officials are hoping that
That's
a broader
crazy.
deal to end this conflict could be finalized as soon as this weekend. And they are watching those talks between Iranian and Pakistani officials very, very closely to see that if a potential second round of talks could take place in Islamabad as soon as this weekend. Now, there are still some major sticking points, and that includes how long Iran has agreed to pause its uranium enrichment, as well as retrieval of Iran's nuclear material. That is what President Trump is referring to as nuclear dust. But all of this comes after the president yesterday announced a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, something that sources say really paved the way for these quickly progressing developments, as well as this announcement that the Strait of Hormuz is reopening. President Trump has said that the Strait blockade will remain in full force until that deal is complete. But we are already seeing oil prices go down, the stock market going up due to this news. It comes as the president is here trying to make that economic pitch, and people I've talked to are already feeling the crunch from this conflict. Pamela and Wolf.
All right, Betsy Klein, thanks for the latest.
$20 billion for nuclear material has been floated, not decided. Nick referenced the reporting. And we'll quote from it. One proposal includes unfreezing assets in exchange for Iran turning over its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Iran has asked for major sanctions relief, unfreezing of assets north of the 20 billion figure. The sources said the discussions haven't been resolved. This is like the crux of everything. Straight is the linchpin.
An ICE agent facing felony charges over his alleged actions during the immigration crackdown in the Twin Cities. This after a prosecutor in Minnesota pledged to go after federal officers, and now she's following through. Garrett Tenney's got more. He's in Chicago today reporting on this. And Garrett, what have we learned?
Yeah, well, Bill, this is one of, if not the first time, an ICE agent is being criminally charged for actions they took while on duty. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty's office has issued a nationwide arrest warrant for 35-year-old ICE agent Gregory Morgan Jr. after charging him with 2 counts of second-degree assault for allegedly pointing his gun at 2 people on the highway back in February. According to the criminal complaint, this was during rush hour traffic, and the alleged victims saw an unidentified black SUV driving along the shoulder of the highway flying past traffic, so they briefly pulled their car in front to cut them off. That's when Morgan pulled up next to them, rolled down his window, and pointed his gun at them, which State Patrol says they could clearly see on highway cameras. The ICE agent told State Patrol that he thought those individuals were agitators who were trying to cut him off because they knew he was a federal agent. That's something agents had been dealing with a lot there. Moriarty, though, says there's no evidence to support that.
Opinion is that illegally driving on a shoulder, pulling up to a car, and pointing a gun at the heads of 2 community members who are not doing anything at the time is well beyond the scope of their authority as federal agents.
This case is going to face a lot of legal challenges given the
Yeah, so they're gonna, Minnesota's gonna
Really good, and now friends have started calling me and the family so we can meet to bring back the days before the war when we used to do gatherings. But even the 10-day deadline, I hope it gets extended and that we can reach a point where an agreement will include a
Let me look up the Ukrainian.
So we do have another post here from President Trump on Truth Social speaking on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. He says this: now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO asking if we would need some help. I told them to stay away unless they just want to load up their ships with oil. They were useless when needed, a paper tiger. President
Oh my god, Trump is always attacking NATO. That's crazy. Trump shouldn't be attacking NATO. That's crazy. Yeah, Trump attacking NATO like always.
Donald J. Trump. So that's just coming in here from the president as we're sharing this news. Now, we also have heard from him a few more times on Truth Social here today. He started off by saying Iran, with the help of the USA, has removed or is removing all sea mines. That also coming out from the president actually just about 2 minutes ago. So my apologies. So a lot of posts here on social media from the president. And once again,
I don't want to look at his, I was going to look at his Truth website, but I don't trust. The last time he showed some woman getting unalive by a hammer. I'm not going to go on, I was going to go on Truth Social on Trump's platform, but I don't want to risk it. The last time he showed a woman getting unalived. It's not worth it. Outside of like a gas station, it was insane. Yeah. What am I gonna be looking for? Let's just look at CNN again. Oh no, it's video.
Hey there,
I've
I'm Harry
seen
Anthony.
this
Today we're
video.
running all the numbers on Israel's U.S. popularity.
I've seen this video before.
the Iranian foreign minister.
Let me look at the. Oh no. I'll just look at the bulwark. Is it a live video? Oh, it was a live video.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL, future Webby Award winner, with my dear friend, Catherine Rampell, author of the Receipts newsletter. And we're going to talk about economics and the things that are happening in the world of money, because as we've discovered every Friday, there's always good stuff happening, Catherine. And today, the stuff is that
an embarrassment of riches, yes.
Strait of Iran is open. It is the Strait of Iran, which is what he said right there. You see it right there. He calls it the Strait of Iran. It's like the Gulf of America. Maybe that's part of what they get out of the deal. We're going to rename it for them.
I hadn't considered that. That's a good theory.
It is fully open, ready for business. We then had confirmation and a follow-up tweet from the president about 20 minutes after that. See, this is part of the deal. He calls it the Strait of Iran first, and then he calls it the Strait of Hormuz. Keep them off balance, Catherine. That's called negotiation.
The Strait of Hormuz completely open, ready for, but the naval blockade will remain full force until effect pertains to Iran. So there's a complete army blockade, a navy blockade. Thank you for your attention.
The art of the deal, right there.
Yeah. Naval blockade is still in full force, though, until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete. Is it strange to talk about the negotiation for the end of a war that you start as a transaction?
You don't think this is part of the just war doctrine?
I don't believe that's how typically Catholic theologians have talked about just war theory.
I mean, Trump knows more than the Pope, so
Yeah.
I would defer to his judgment here. Yeah, it does seem quite odd, particularly since, once again, we don't really know what the objective of this war has been, is, or
Yeah, we don't know the objective. I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'll be back. I have to go use the restroom. I'll be behind my camera.
will be, but we just know it is a transaction of some kind. And
Alright, I'm
transaction,
back.
of course, implies,
Just had to
if
go
not
use
something
washroom real
monetary, although
fast.
there is some monetary transaction that is being discussed here, certainly something a little bit crasser than national security or the freedom of the Iranian people or anything else. But look, Trump's a deal maker. You know, it's a deal, it's a transaction, it's a negotiation. It's not about world peace or civil liberties or anything else.
Do you remember all that talk about the freedom for the Iranian people that was in the first like 24 hours of this thing? And
I do.
as far as I can tell, it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been interesting. I don't know if you've been following any of the chatter from like the Iranian diaspora.
I have not. I'm curious.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm far from an expert on this, but I have read some. I've talked with some, friends who are part of that, who may or may not be representative. But there's also been news coverage about it, about how there were a lot of members of the Iranian diaspora who were very hawkish, advocating for war, thought that Donald Trump would help their people, and are now disillusioned, understandably, because that objective, if it ever was one, fell by the wayside long ago.
Perhaps like the people who've been struggling for freedom in Venezuela.
Yes, or the people who wanted prices to go down here. I mean, there are a lot of people who thought they had thought that they had something nice coming to them because Donald Trump said as much. And
Okay, so we just made a deal with Lebanon. As of 2 hours from now, we have a ceasefire with Israel and Lebanon, and that'll be great.
A day after US President Donald Trump's announcement, the fragile ceasefire agreed by Lebanon and Israel, which started on Friday, appeared to be holding. The goal of the 10-day cessation of hostilities between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah is providing breathing room for negotiators to make progress on a more lasting deal. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he agreed to the ceasefire to advance peace efforts, but also said he would not be withdrawing troops from southern Lebanon.
זה מאפשר לנו קודם כל לבלום את סכנת הפלישה לתוך היישובים שלנו, ושנית, זה מאפשר לנו למנוע ירי של נ"ט ישיר לתוך היישובים. היישובים עכשיו מוגנים משתי הסכנות הללו.
In Lebanon, civilians displaced by the fighting made tentative returns to their homes, but for many, the relief of being able to return was tempered by the scale of destruction they encountered on their arrival.
ومثل ما شفت دمر الداعي كله مثل ما قال اخر انذار يعني وهيك عملوا زمار نار دمر الحسينيه دمر الساحه.
The ceasefire also has ripple effects for the wider conflict in the Middle East. A pause in fighting between Hezbollah and Israel in Lebanon was a key demand of Iranian negotiators in the talks between the US and Iran. But despite efforts by Pakistani officials to bring US and Iranian representatives back to the table for a second round of talks, the White House said no decision had been made on whether to resume negotiations.
Damn, that Mosque got completely wiped off the face of the earth.
It's a scene that's
Communities in the Midwest this morning besieged by raging floodwaters. Officials warning the impact of this week's severe storms could last for days, with intense flash flooding prompting urgent evacuations and rescues.
Some neighborhoods saw a month's worth of rain.
This view from above in Wisconsin showing floodwaters overwhelming roads in New London and creating real rapids on some city streets. People wading through water to gather sandbags in an effort to protect their homes and their businesses. As leaders in Shiocton, Wisconsin say the high waters have left part of their village unreachable. Water even breaching the ballpark at the Milwaukee Brewers game. And Michigan, currently under a state of emergency as officials there monitoring water levels at the Sheboygan Dam, now just a mere 5 inches from the top.
They've been placing sandbags to guide water flow and to help prevent erosion.
The East Coast also not immune to torrential thunderstorms, raining down hail in Nashville. While to the north, a scorching taste of summer in early spring. Temperatures approaching 90-plus degrees in many cities, including record highs Thursday from Raleigh to Philadelphia, where kids stayed cool at the splash pad.
I just got a big water bottle just in case for the heat, and I got 2 fans.
And in New York City, Yankees fans soaking up the sun at an afternoon game.
Now, guys, we are getting some relief here. Temperatures in the Northeast peaked yesterday. They are expected to be about 10 degrees cooler today. But right now, of course, all eyes are on the Midwest, where emergency planners are just hoping that what they've done there to prepare for today's deluge is enough to protect residents from potentially devastating flash flooding. Put it back to you.
We hope so. All right, Sam, thanks so much.
We wanted the heat. Here it is. Let's check in with Al, who is standing by at Johnson Space Center with more on the forecast. Hey, Al.
Hey, guys, good morning. Let's take a look. So here's this system that's developing. It's going to be pushing to the east, coming out of the plains, a potent cold front. It's going to bring dangerous storms from Texas on into Wisconsin today. We've got a risk of severe weather, strong tornadoes possible. In fact, take a look at this area. We could
Well, I'm now joined in the studio by Hassan Ahmadian. He's an associate professor at the University of Tehran. Good to have you with me here in the studio. So, Professor, first of all, let's take apart some of these lines that have been dropping fast and furious in the last couple of hours. Donald Trump saying Iran has agreed to suspend its nuclear program indefinitely. How likely is it that Iran has agreed, in your understanding, to suspend its entire nuclear program? Indefinitely.
There's nothing that has been agreed so far on.
It's been agreed, yeah.
The nuclear.
We had Tammy Bruce on the program earlier today. I want you to listen.
All right, Ben, there's been a ton of Iran-related news in the last 24 hours, so we are jumping on the YouTube to try to unpack what is real, what is Trumpian bullshit, and what we know and don't. So let's start with the ceasefire and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Then we're going to talk about reports about the structure of a potential broader agreement between the U.S. and Iran that could get negotiated as soon as this weekend. And then we'll talk about how all this is playing in Israel. So on the ceasefire question, so on Friday morning, Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, tweeted, quote, "In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran." So that specific language there matters. It seems very scoped. We'll come back to that. And by the way, our listeners, if you want to get your news from a place that will never just regurgitate mindlessly Trump's Truth Social posts about anything, please subscribe to Pod Save the World here on YouTube. We're trying to build a progressive, independent media company. We want to push back on the right-wing pro-war crap you're seeing on YouTube from Fox News and Ben Shapiro and countless others. So when you subscribe, you help us out a lot. You help us grow the show. And you help us get good information into the YouTube algorithm to fight back. So thank you. Trump had a flurry of Truth Social posts, Ben. One of them said, quote, "Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world. Can all but guarantee that is not true. And by the way, it was not used as a weapon against the world before the war started, but details. He also claimed that the deal is not tied in any way to Lebanon, that Iran will remove all mines in the strait, and that the U.S. blockade on Iran will remain in place until the deal is done."
Yeah, they have to remove our mines. How long have I been going? 43 minutes. I'll see how long my stream is gonna last.
Finally, he posted this long passage, quote, "The USA will get all nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah," he spelled it wrong, "situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited, all caps, from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough." Finally, he found time to attack NATO, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, and Candace Owens. So busy morning for our president on Truth Social. In response, the price of Brent crude oil drops 10%. The stock market is ripping. And soon, Ben, I'm sure we'll learn that like Don and Eric have call options on the S&P and puts on oil prices, but I digress. So let's unpack like what is real, what is bullshit here. Obviously, a ceasefire deal and reopening the strait is a good thing. We've said that a million times. But the Iranians seem to be suggesting they will only open, or explicitly saying they will only open a smaller, more narrow passage that